All right. Can everyone see this presentation that I have up? Great. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get started. I wanted to give a couple of minutes to some people who might have accidentally gone to the ACA, but for no fault of their own. Obviously, we've had to shut down due to the weather today. And we do apologize for any inconvenience that has caused. But I'm really glad that so many of you have turned up online today. I really appreciate you making the time to sit through this with us today. So we're all here for the ArtSpark information session. It is our individual artist grant. I'm going to take you through some information. We do have some changes to ArtSpark this year since we do have a new partner on board, but we'll get to all of that. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So who are we? Well, I'm, as I said, I'm Anna Kojevnikov. I'm the Community Development Manager here at ACA. I do a lot of grants administration with Gwen Richard, who's also up here on the screen. We have several grants that we administer. One is this one, our only individual artist grant for people in Acadiana. We have two other individual artist grants, but they're for students and young folks. And then we have a couple of grants that are for organizations. I think Gwen is having some trouble. Gwen, can you hear and or speak? I'm not sure if you're still having issues. Nope, still having issues. Okay. So Gwen Richard is a community development director. She's having some tech issues, but she administers all of the grants across Acadiana with me. And I'm sure she'd love to say that she's also a visual artist and an art therapist. And she's been doing this for a long time, probably around 17 years. So we administer these grants together. And Gwen is actually the person who first came up with the idea for ArtSpark 11 years ago in 2014. So we have to thank her a lot for this program. Okay, so I do want to know a little bit about you all as well. I was going to do this in person, but it's not, obviously we can't do that. But what I'm going to get you to do is looking at all of these as I'm talking about them, I just want you to tell me a little bit about what you're doing. So tell me about your creative discipline first. Are you a visual artist, craft? Do you do traditional arts or folk life? Are you a photographer? Performing arts, so theater, dance, that type of thing. Literary arts, you're a writer, a poet, filmmaker, or media arts, or interdisciplinary arts. And also, if you're not any of those things, tell me what you are so that we can make sure that whatever discipline you're in actually fits in with the program. So just maybe pop them in the chat for me. And then the next question I'm going to ask is what parish you're from. Be good to get just a little overview of where everybody's coming from. But visual artists, filmmakers, digital artists, dancers, collage, lots of Lafayette. Lafayette. Oh, St. Martin Parish. Where did that one go? And then my third question to everybody is your career stage. So are you an emerging artist, which I guess under 5 years how many years have you been practicing? Under 5 years, between 5 and 15 years would be a mid-career, or over 15 years for mature artist. Oh, we got somebody from New Iberia. Hi, Vince. And then, but lots of experienced artists coming through. That's awesome. Mature artists, emerging, mid. That's great. Lots of variety. Fantastic. Because this year we have something different. And Aurelian is from St. Mary. Oh yeah, trick question, Vincent. We'll definitely talk maybe a little bit offline about that stuff. And my final question was, what is your grant experience? Have you applied for grants before? And or received a grant before? And also, are there anybody in this group who's applied for and or received ArtSpark before? Allison is new at grant writing. Denise, yes, great. You have applied and received ArtSpark before. Oh yeah, Michael. Hi, Michael. You have received, and Yon Choi as well. Lots of new grant writers. That's awesome. Well, thank you for letting me know a little bit about yourselves. I did ask those for a particular reason, and we will get to those a little bit further into the presentation. So just gonna talk a little bit about ArtSpark. So as you may or may not know, ArtSpark is a competitive grant program, and it supports individual artists in Acadiana, and we provide technical support, funding, and entrepreneurial training to artists in a lot of these fields. These awards are for emerging, mid-career, and mature artists, and this year we have split those 3 categories. And they're for project-specific work with a component of outreach, and we're focusing this year. We have a particular focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, with a particular focus on Black artists, Indigenous artists, and people of color, as well as those with disabilities. That doesn't mean that we're excluding anybody else. It just means that we're focusing a little bit more on people of color with different ethnicities. And we also have some professional development in there as well. So I noticed that Destin had just logged in, and he'll be talking a little bit about Opportunity Machine and what they offer. The history of ArtSpark, it did start in 2014, as I already mentioned. So this will be its 11th year. In 2014, it started with support from LEADER, which is the Lafayette Economic Development Authority, which is why we do have a focus on professional development and entrepreneurial business building skills. Over the last 10 years, we've distributed $352,500. We have supported 88 arts projects, probably closer to maybe 80 artists, because a few of those have had more than one award. And in 2022, we did receive an IEDC award. That's an International Economic Development I can't remember what the C stands for, award. So this program has been recognized on an international level to provide economic benefits to our artists in our community. So as of this year, we do have additional funding from LEADER. The last few years, we've been distributing $25,000. This year, we will be granting up to $50,000. And Lita has come in with some extra funding, plus we have a new partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts to make all of this possible. So, changes this cycle with the extra funding that we've received. We are trying to make this program a lot more accessible. So we have translated all of our grant materials into Spanish, as it is one of the biggest growing communities in Lafayette. We have revised grant amounts for, as I said, for the emerging, mid-career, and our mature artists. Because we are funded by the National Endowment for the Arts, we do have to follow federal policies now. So you do have to pay particular attention to those terms and conditions that they provide as well. And we do have some ambassadors helping us with outreach. And I see Leah is here. Hi, Leah. Okay, so the important dates to really have on your calendars. The funding cycle, what does that mean? It means they're the dates that the project is being completed between. So it has to be completed. You can't have any of your project start before April 1st. And what that means is that if you may have started your project before April 1st, but anything that you will be, just a moment, anything that you will be doing between April 1st and December 1st, that's where we will, they're the expenses that we'll pay for, but that all has to be agreed on in the project description. We will talk about that a little bit more as well. So the submissions did open last Monday. We do have a draft review service, which I'll talk about a little bit more as well. And if you do want your draft feedback, then you do need to get us that copy of your draft by the 11th of February, so that we have a couple of weeks to, firstly, Gwen or I will review the draft, and then you will have time to update any suggested changes that you decide to take on. The application deadline is Friday, February 23rd, no later than 5 p.m. and using only the online form. And then we will let you know the week of March 25th of whether you have been successful. So I'm not going to read through all of this slide. This is all in the guidelines, which you will find on our website. But I just wanted to touch on a couple of things in the focus. So as I said, this year we do have a particular focus on BIPOC artists and those artists with disabilities. That doesn't exclude anybody else. It just means that we're doing a little bit more outreach to make sure that everybody's getting the same amount of attention throughout these programs. So artistic merit and artistic excellence, make sure that you're showing us each of those. That could include something like, your resume. Make sure that you're able to clearly define what each of those means, and we will go through that. That is also listed in the guidelines in under the review, the requirement. We'll get to it. So the second point, what it's asking for is to be clear about what you're making and why you're making it. Point number 3, we're just asking in that one that you're, we usually don't prioritize being creative. And so what we're trying to do is give you the funds to be creative and not have to think about how you're going to pay your bills. You can still work, and then this is dedicated to your creative pursuits. Number 4, so this is really just asking about how you plan to include your community through collaborations. And number 5 is basically how you're going to include your community as an audience. Number 6 is about your economic outcomes, what you're expecting. Because you can't pay yourself, but you can monetize what you're creating. We don't take a cut of anything. That is all for you. So just talk about how this will benefit you financially. And then number 7 is how this funding will directly impact the community's economic development. So if you're collaborating with somebody and you're paying somebody within your community, then you're actually putting back into the economy. And then number 8 is talking about Opportunity Machine and how they'll help you bring together all of these pieces. And all of this will these program focuses, when they're being reviewed by the panelists, there will be varying level of expertise expected depending on your career stage. So if you're an emerging artist, don't fret too much about whether you're putting enough information in there. We'll obviously, help you throughout the process, but that will be taken into consideration. Let's quickly go through the eligibility. So you have to be an individual artist working as the lead artist of the proposed project. So let's just quickly talk about what an individual artist means. This is all about you. This is not about the business that you work for, the company that you own. This is all about how you and the work that you will be creating will give you an opportunity to showcase yourself. That doesn't mean that you can't work with other people through for your project. So you can pay other people to come on board and assist you with things, but you have to be the one who's overseeing this entire thing. So this is your creative project. You're producing it, you're overseeing it, you're making all of the creative decisions. So if you're in a band and you've got 5 people in the band and it's 5 people, then probably this program isn't for you. But if you have a band and you're you're going out on your own and doing an accordion album and you're really showcasing the accordion, and you're making all the creative decisions around how this is going to be produced, then that does work. So you can still pay all of your supporting artists, but it's really about you. You have to be working in the artistic disciplines, and we spoke about them a little bit at the start. So there's visual arts, crafts, traditional arts, folk life, photography, performing arts, literary arts, film, media, and or interdisciplinary arts. If you are outside of any of those disciplines, I'm not saying that you can't apply, just come and chat to me and we'll make sure that whether there's a way that we can figure out how that fits in with the disciplines that aren't listed. In terms of so what we define as a practicing artist is someone who has been making and producing artwork on a regular basis. Typically, you're paid or earning a portion of your wage from this, but that's not a given. We just want to see that you are consistently producing work throughout in your day-to-day. You do have to be at least 18 years of age by April 1st, 2024. So you can apply now if you're 17, but you have to be 18 by the time it hits April 1st. You have to be a resident of Acadiana's 8-parish region. I know that this varies across some different websites and stuff, but we go by what the state calls the 8-parish region, and we're looking at Acadia, Evangeline, Iberia, Lafayette, St. Landry, St. Martin, St. Mary, and Vermilion parishes. If you're outside of those parishes, I'm afraid you are not eligible. You must be a US citizen with a social security number, and you must use the funds within the allocated cycle period. So some things that will probably render you unable to apply for this as well is that you can't be a current board member, a funder, or a panelist or staff member, immediate family of LEADER, Opportunity Machine, Acadiana Center for the Arts. You can't be applying on behalf of an organization or a collective or a company or a band, as we already discussed. If you've received funding from ArtSpark in the last 2 years, you are also ineligible. You have to wait until the 3rd year. If you're a student, you're ineligible unless you're a graduate student. And then this one, it comes from federal stipulations. You cannot be disbarred, suspended, or have any other exclusions or disqualifications from receiving federal funding. All right. Does anyone have any questions before I move on? Okay. There will be time to ask questions at the end as well. So the award amounts. As we discussed, there's 3 different categories this year. If you're an emerging artist, we look at your documented artistic practice. If you can't show us anything over 5 years, we are going to assume that you are an emerging artist, and you will be eligible to apply for between $1,000 and $2,500. Mid-career artist is anybody who's been practicing between 5 and 15 years. Again, it needs to be a documented artistic practice. You need to show us on your resume or your CV and with your work samples that you have been consistently making work in that period. Mature artists, anybody who's been practicing for over 15 years, can apply for between $5,000 and $10,000. Is a really huge opportunity for our mature artists here to make a huge impact on their careers. Okay, so what can the funds be used on? Generally, what we're looking for is a very short-term specific project. So, that could be a collection of paintings. It could be a short film. It could be a podcast. It could be an album. But you need to be very specific about what that is and what you'll be delivering to us with the funds. So if you're producing an album and you were only awarded maybe like $2,500 instead of the $5,000 that you asked for, you need to let us know where those funds are going and what you're giving to us to show us that you have completed your portion of the project. So whether that's like a recording, but it's not mastered, or something along those lines. You need to be very specific. And we can talk about those things as well closer to when you're ready to apply. Make sure that they're, we can classify them as a completed project. You can purchase supplies. It can't be more than 50% of what you are awarded. So, you need paint, you need canvases, you need frames and that type of thing. That includes that. Anything that's associated with producing a performance. So, renting a space, but not ACA, lights, cameras, instruments, if you're putting on a show, anything along those lines, they're acceptable project expenses. And then any costs associated with professional development. So if you're going to a workshop or a seminar, please let us know before you apply for funding for that, because there are some instances where this is not an eligible expense. And it can't just be whilst we do encourage professional development within this program, that can't be the entirety of what you do with the funding. So it can be in conjunction with other project specific ideas. So if you, I know Lex is here somewhere, and they wanted to do professional development and learn how to paint with oil paints before they created a series of paintings. That is an acceptable way to do professional development. just going to a residency and not giving us a completed project at the end of it probably will not be accepted by the panel. We do really want to make sure that you're marketing your projects correctly. So please make sure that you're putting in some marketing dollars in there. We're saying a maximum of 10% of the awarded funds, but if you want to get a professional photographer, we will allow that as an additional fee as well. We want to make sure that you're documenting your process and your artwork correctly. We want to make sure that you've got something for the archive. On the flip side, the things that you can't use the funding for is direct payments to yourself as an artist. The reason for that is that what LEADER is hoping, the Lafayette Economic Development Authority, is that you're using this as an opportunity to then go out and use what you've learned from this process or from the sale of the artwork that you've created to make a financial impact in that way in your lives. No capital expenditures over $500. So they're large ticket items such as computers, other electronics. Anything that costs over $500 is not going to fly. Travel for the applicant outside of just in general is not an accepted project expense. So if you do want to go to a residency somewhere and you have to pay for the residency, you can pay for the residency, but you can't pay for the travel to get there. You would have to find other means to pay for that travel. Anything that's, any receipts that you present as before or after the cycle, so before April 1st or after December 1st, they will not be accepted. You can't use this for college or graduate art school projects or tuition, no operational support, no competitions or pageants or any fundraising. So if you're putting on a concert and its like main purpose is a fundraising event, this is not going to be an allowable expense. And there are a whole bunch of other ones that you can also find in the guidelines as well. So our next portion is outreach. So what this means is that we want you to use what you've learned within your project and have a community engagement component where you're giving back to the community. So that could look like a public reading, a workshop, having the community come in and help you with the project. But just be sure that you understand that the art project, the creation of the art project itself does not count as outreach. It has to be, but it does have to be relevant to your project. So, so let's see. What that means is that if you've made a film, I always go back to film just because film is my background. So if you've made a film, the creation of the film is the project, and the community outreach could be a screening with a Q&A. So they're relevant to each other. But if you are, I don't know, writing a book and then you want to do a screening, they're not really relevant to each other. With outreach, we do find that this area is often kind of overlooked. So, I'm sorry. I'm just going to mute this person. I really want you to pay particular attention to this. I do think it's a really important part of this program. So when we're looking at outreach, I just think that you really should, the things that you should be looking at is making sure that the event is well thought out. It includes specific details, things like location, the kind of audience you'll have, the activity that you're doing. Don't think of this as an added task to, the grant. This is part of your grant. And, really, it's a larger part of the goal to ensure of your success in the community. It's kind of like a marketing tool for yourself, for people to understand who you are within the community. All right, so Opportunity Machine. I did see a message from Destin. He's having some trouble with his internet, so he had some difficulty and he is not going to be here this evening. But so Opportunity Machine, let me just tell you a little bit about what they do. They're a business incubator. They generally deal with a lot of tech startups. They're an arm of the Lafayette Economic Development Authority, who obviously funds this program. And so we've been collaborating with them for many years on how to help artists think of themselves as entrepreneurs. And so they're really important to this program. I would recommend that, you take some time to look them up and figure out what they do and how they'll be able to assist you with, figuring out how to monetize what you're doing so that you can all be artists full time, or for, have some extra funds. He has also said that if you do have any questions about what they do, he is really happy to jump on a call, and his email is up here, so please take that down. And if you do have any questions about what they do or how they can assist you, please just drop him an email. So what is the application going to include? It's going to include the following things. So it will ask you about what the project is. So make sure that you can clearly identify the project, what you expect the outcomes to be, and when. Let me go back to that real quick. So the email is destin@opportunitymachine.org. And that's Destin, DESTIN. So the application, as well as telling us what the project is, you need to tell us how you're using the funds. So, you'll have to complete a budget with that. Tell us what the deliverables are. If you're making if you're doing a collection of paintings, tell us how many paintings are going to be in that collection. Yeah, be very specific. We can, and please come to us and talk to us about what you're planning on doing, because we can often talk to you about what sounds reasonable with the budget and the project that you're planning. Who is going to be assisting you with this project? So tell us, I know that this is about you, but as we spoke about before, you probably will be using other people within the community to help you pull your project off. So who are those people? Make sure that you talk to them early, and you have their information, and you know that they're going to be able to do the job that you need them to do. We do ask you to write a bio and a statement and an artist statement. So double check on our blog. I will take you to our blog in a moment. There is a really great article about the difference between a bio and a statement. And within the application itself, there's also a link that talks about what the difference is between a bio and a statement. I think it's a really important distinction. So I do think that you should take some time to figure out what they are. And again, if you have any questions about it, I'm really happy to read over all your stuff and make sure that you're on the right track. You will need to upload some work samples within the application itself. It will tell you what those requirements are. If you're making a film, we're probably going to want to see some footage of something that you've done before. If you're, wanting to make an album, we probably want to hear some music. If you're writing a book, maybe show us what your writing skills look like. If you're changing disciplines, so if you're in theater and this is your first time writing a book, then, give us an example of how your skills from theatre are going to be applied to that. Or if you are going to be doing a film and you have previously written books, tell us how those skills are being applied to film instead. Supplemental uploads. There's no real specification about what that is. It could be letters of recommendation, anything that's supplemental to what we see here. Don't go overboard. Please remember that our panelists have a lot of work to do, and if they have to see too many supplemental uploads, it might just take too much time, and they might not get through it all, and they might not get a full picture of what you're doing. So make sure that you're being really intentional about what you're putting in this area. You will need to tell us about your community engagement activity. You will need to tell us about how Opportunity Machine is going to benefit you. And then we do have a section on demographics. This is purely optional. We just want to see who we've got in the community, what you all are doing, and how we can better service you. So we do really encourage you to fill that out if you can. Okay. Evaluation criteria. We will be evaluating you on 3 different areas: artistic merit, artistic excellence, and outreach. So just to tell you a little bit about how the process goes, we gather a panel of experts. They're comprised of artists, community leaders, business professionals, a bunch of different people. We ask them to fill out an application and tell us what their interest is in the arts. And they come together and they make funding recommendations. We send them all of your applications. They have an opportunity to read through them. They use a rubric that uses this evaluation criteria to decipher whether you're really meeting all of the elements, or how many elements of that you're meeting, and figuring out how to place you. After we've had a panel discussion day where we discuss all of the applications on the one day, we then take the recommendations to the board of directors at ACA, and they provide the final okay on whether the recommendations are okay. So let's talk about what is in each of these evaluation criteria. They have changed slightly from the previous years. So if you have been reading them in the recent years, we've changed them slightly. So please make sure that you're checking on this stuff. The artistic merit really is looking for the clarity of what you're planning on doing with your project. So making sure that you are able to talk clearly about your project, seeing that it's well planned, that you have a very accurate, not a very accurate timeline, because these things change, but like an idea of what that timeline is going to look like over the 9 months of the project period. It's going to look at your providers of service. So who's helping you and what do their credentials look like? You'll have an opportunity to upload their bios and resumes. If you want, you can put them into the supplemental area. A realistic time frame, as I already said, and then an appropriate level of request and use of the stipend funds. So making sure that the panels are going to be looking to see that you understand what the needs are of your project, both in time and financially. So where are these funds going? Are they being used in an accurate way? Clearly defined project deliverables. What are the outcomes, and how are you planning on evaluating whether your project has been successful? And then how your project aligns with ArtSpark's desired program outcomes. So all of those things that we spoke about earlier in, where is it, the program focus, use these as things to talk against when you're planning your project narrative. So where do you fit in with all of these focus areas? What else have we got here? The artistic excellence. So this comes in when we're talking about you as an artist. So we're going to be looking at your work samples, the quality of that work that you're providing us, your understanding of the art form, your documented artistic practice. So you'll need to give us a CV or a resume that shows us exactly what you've been doing over the last 5, 10, 15 years or more. Make sure that, yeah, the work samples are relevant to the project that you're proposing. And then there's also one other area that they'll be looking at in the excellence, which is, you know, are you recognized by leaders within the community as an artist of serious intent and ability? So that is something that will be, you know, recognized with letters of recommendation, or you know, the places that you've exhibited and things like that. So take all those into consideration in your CV, your artist bio, your statement. That's the areas that they'll be looking at for that. And then the final area that they will be evaluating is the outreach. So what is the impact of this project? You know, how will this project affect the community? Not just like the project itself, but the community's involvement in the project. How do you see your community engaging in the project as an audience? What kind of audience do you know, want to attract with this? And then also, you know, what you plan to do with Opportunity Machine and how you plan on engaging with them throughout the process. I do want to put this quick reminder in real quick, which is that this is a competitive program. Just because you submit an application does not mean that you will be successful in this. It is a competitive program, but it's not as competitive as other programs. For anybody who turned up to Aileen Bennett's session last week, we were discussing the chances, and last year we had 39 applicants and 10 people were awarded. So 1 in 4 chance of receiving a grant, which is really fantastic odds compared to a lot of other grants. I know it can be disappointing when you don't get the grant, but this is all a learning experience, and you get a lot more out of applying for grants than just the money. You really refine your ideas for the next time you apply. Yeah, it's please don't be discouraged. Please come along and apply again next year, and, you know, come and receive feedback from us after the panel sessions as well. So we do have a lot of resources to help you through this process. I'm going to quickly show you the website in a moment, but I just want to go over these real quick. We have the ACA's website with the ArtSpark page has the guidelines, the application, videos. There's a blog on there as well that has a lot of grant resources. Please look at it, you know, use it to your advantage. This year we've introduced ambassadors, and one of our ambassadors, Leah Porter, is here. Leah, do you want to quickly say hello, Leah? I know you probably need to get going soon.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Leah Porter. I'm a local artist and arts administrator here in Lafayette, and I'm excited to be a part of the ambassador program to help assist and aid more artists in our community knowing about and learning about the ArtSpark grant, which is amazing. And so just want to say hello.
And Leah is the director of Park Village in the north side of Lafayette. Leah has excellent programming at Park Village. I really recommend you all check it out. Lots of exhibitions and poetry readings and mixes. Yeah, please look up Park Village. That's PARC Village.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks, Leah. Okay, I'm going to share again. All right. We have office hours coming up. Leah will be hosting one at Park Village. This is basically hours across, I'll show you the website, but where it will be across all of Acadiana in spaces just available there for you to come and ask us questions. What we ask that you do is that if you turn up to these, you've read the guidelines, you have a project ID you want to talk about, and you bring your questions, and we can certainly, help you with as much as we can during those hours. Come to one, come to, several of them, use it to your advantage. At those office hours, we'll also be bringing binders full of previous applications. These are a really important resource for you to use. It has not only the successful applications, but it also has unsuccessful applications. It gives you like a real look into, what makes a successful application and what, where people might need some additional support. So please use that to your advantage. And as I said, we also have a draft review service. So let me just quickly, I am going to stop sharing briefly and share a different page. Okay, here we go. All right, so everyone's seeing this other page. So this is the ArtSpark page. You can find this by going to opportunities for artists, ArtSpark Award. And if you know of any Spanish speakers, they can click on this, and this will translate the website and the guidelines into Spanish. So the things that I wanted to show you were the office hours. So you'll see here a list of hours that will be at ACA. So tomorrow between 5 and 7 p.m., if you have any questions that you want to just, talk to me offline about, that's a good opportunity to do that. Wednesday, January 24, Gwen will be at that one because I won't be. Thanks, Gwen. February 6th and 8th. And then February 2nd will be at Park Village. And then around Acadiana, we're going to be at Nunu's, at A&E Gallery in New Iberia, at the Grand Opera House of the South in Crowley, the Lamplighter Coffee House in St. Mary Parish. I know that, Aurelian, I think you said that you're from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got Abbeville Cultural Center. We're still setting up St. Martin, but Evangeline Parish is happening this Thursday in Ville Platte. So if anybody here is from that area, message me and I will give you the details for that one. Here's the guidelines, and you just need to click on this line and that'll give you the full application. So a couple of the other resources that, that will help you is here are the previous grant recipients from 2023. We have Becca Begnard there, and then 2022 as well. So if you click through these, you'll see a description of everybody's projects. It gives you a good idea of the types of projects that have been funded in the past, what they're about, who's involved. where they're doing it, that type of thing. So please click through. So Becca did a 3-part pilot for a documentary series about healing. Chasa did was a debut directing for a short film. Dustin has a new album coming out, and it's based on the story of how his grandparents ended up here in Acadiana. Grant Darmody is a harmonica player, and he did an album where he is featured as with his harmonica skills. Kathleen Reed did a exhibition. So she used the funds towards supplies at Basin Arts. And then 2022 are a whole different beast. The other one I wanted to show you is in 2021. There is a documentary here about all of those recipients of the award in 2021. The recipients talk about what they found easy and hard and challenging throughout the process. So I recommend, spending 15 minutes and watching that one as well. The other thing I wanted to show you is also here in opportunities for artists as resources and blog. Oops. Is that the right one? No. So we have a few blog posts, 10 tips on grant writing. Suzanne Wiltz was a recipient in 2022. She has some tips about her process that she went through. Whitney was a recipient from this year. She talks about her project. And Erin here, she is our education coordinator, and she goes and tells you about the difference between biographies versus statements. And just below that, there are, lots of other resources for grants. So I recommend checking out this funding opportunities database. There are like hundreds of different opportunities that you can look at there, but you'll see here opportunity machines, so you can look them up and see what they do before you contact Destin. Creative Capital is a great one. Use these resources. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing, and I've got a couple more slides, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Okay. I just realized my cat has been in here the whole time and been an absolute angel, so good job, Ellie. Okay. I already took you through the previous recipients. Last slide, well, second last slide. So if you are successful, there are a few things that you need to take into consideration before you apply, because this will really might affect some things. So this is taxable income. So you are receiving funds, and they need to be, you will get a 1099 form. So if you have some reason why you can't have additional taxable income, come and talk to me. We may or may not be able to figure out a way to work around that, but yeah, please come and talk to me about that. The first payment is 75% as soon as you accept the grant. So as soon as we have the funding, so you have to, if you are accepted as a recipient, you will need to sign an agreement. And then as soon as we have the funds in hand, then we'll be able to give you the first 75%. Sometimes that doesn't happen before the cycle starts. So the cycle starts on April 1st. If there's for any reason that we haven't received the funding from our funders for that, you can start working on your project, just save all of your receipts, and then it'll just become like a reimbursement. The second payment is when you provide us with your final report in December. That one is reimbursement. So we give you 75% upfront, generally speaking, but the final 25%, you have to fund that yourself, pay for all of that 25%, and then you'll get reimbursed for that. So it just, provides a little bit of accountability on your end, that you're making sure that all of the program expectations are met before we give you the final 25%. So we know that what the dates are. This year, because this is a federally funded program now, you will need to also submit an NHPA or NEPA questionnaire. That is about the locations that you're working on. It's about a historical, making sure that anything that you're doing in historical buildings, it's protected in a way. So you will need to fill that out. And that is something to think about when you're, thinking about your projects. What are the locations, and how is that going to affect if you do receive the funding? If you have additional funding from other sources, that source cannot also be federal funding, because you can only have one source of federal funding. So you can apply for other grants, they just cannot be federally funded grants. You will need to attend a mandatory compliance meeting upon receiving the grant. That date will be in your agreement. And then Opportunity Machine does have a mandatory intro session, and then they do have a couple of mandatory sessions, but a lot of them are optional. I still recommend that you go to all of them, because they, whether or not it's relevant to you now, you will probably find it extremely useful later on. Some recommendations: track your payments. 9 months doesn't seem like that long, but it's a long time. And if you're making a project over a 9-month period, and you're, paying for something in April and then paying something in August, make sure that you have a system to track your payments, your receipts, the proof of payment. So we need you to show us that not only have you, not only the receipt, but also how you paid for that receipt. So we need to see a bank statement, a credit card statement, whatever it is, canceled checks, to show that that money has also gone out. Make sure that you're always, throughout the cycle of that, the funding cycle, keep us updated about what you're doing. Let us know when your exhibitions are, when it's a good time to, stop by and do a site visit. If you're working on something really cool and you want us to see the process of it, we love to see that sort of stuff. And make sure that you're crediting us along the way. So if you're doing any social media posts, you do need to make sure that you're crediting us, and we'll give you the language to use for that. And then the final one is must follow all federal policies and terms and conditions. There are a lot, and so I don't know them all, but we'll work through them together. And that is the end of the presentation. So here is my contact details and Gwen's contact details, and some dates to remember. Take a screenshot real quick, and then I'm going to stop sharing so that we can do Q&A. I know that there are a couple in there already, which I'll try to answer. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Okay, so let me see what we've got in the chat. Feel free to put your hand up if you want to chat on the video. So Vincent had asked how many grants are awarded. As far as I can tell, the draft is sent to you via the online portal. Correct, just don't save it. That was the other thing that I forgot to show you is the online portal. So yes, that is correct. So number one, how many grants are awarded? I don't know. It depends on the panelists. So the panelists are pretty much there. They do the scoring. They decide how to distribute the funds. Depends on how many applicants they want to fund in that period. If they have like, you know, 10 excellent projects and they want to fund them 100%, then probably that's all that will be funded. But a lot of the time they don't fund things to 100% so that they can, give more funding to more people. And
There's
then
no set number going in.
yeah, we don't have an idea of that. We just know how much what the funding amount is. In terms of the draft, yes. So there is a function when you're filling out the application form. Make sure that you save draft, save and continue. And then you also need to make sure that you put your email address into the field for that. And then you will receive an email with the draft, and then you can forward that to me. Don't fret if you forget that part apart, because I can see it from the back end. It's just that you would have to, if you forget that part, you will have to re-enter that stuff into a new one. Abby, I saw that you wanted to jump on real quick, and then I'll have a look at what else we got.
Yeah, thank you. I was just typing it up, but I'm a little bit confused and wondering if you could go into more depth about some of the differences between like a collaborator. I know you had talked, are there some kind of stipulation about you can't pay someone who's operating or something like that?
No. So anybody who is a provider of service, you can pay them. So as long as you are overseeing the entire creative project, you can pretty much pay people for their services. You can pay them to play an instrument. You can pay them to be your cinematographer. You can pay them to dance. You can also pay non-artistic providers of services for different things. Was there something in particular that you were wondering about?
I guess, what about some type of consultant on a project?
Sure. I mean, we'd have to talk about it, make sure that it's in line with the project, but yes, that has been done before, but definitely we should probably chat. I see another one from Vince about average range for a professional photographer. That's up to you. Really depends on what you're asking them to do, how long you're asking them to work. If you have somebody in mind and you want an opinion, I'm certainly happy to have a look.
It's always good to do some research and find out what's the going rate, and we have different photographers that require different rates. So you have to do a little homework.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Yeah, and trick question, writing for decades, visual artist, new stuff, novice for this proposed project. Yeah, I think as I said before, it's if you're coming in, okay, you've been writing for decades, but if you have work samples that give us an idea of what you're doing now, I think the thing about the writing part is that you can show that you've completed projects before. And so that's really important. I guess it really depends on the new stuff with the visual arts, how advanced you are. And, again, this is a new way that we're splitting these three categories. So we might be playing it a little bit by ear as we try to figure that out a little bit more firmly. But we can talk about that and make sure that you have the correct, you know, things on your CV and resume, the correct, you know, work samples on Culturalist or in, you know, uploaded on the application as well. So if there's anything that you're not 100% on, please just come to us and we'll figure it out with you. Okay, Martha, yeah, Martha, this is just like a general tip for everybody. Don't trust technology. Make sure that you've got a copy of your application elsewhere besides the application before you start. So make sure that you're starting your application in a Word doc or something like that where you've got it saved before you start putting it into the application. Martha, I will look into that and make sure and check what's going on for you. I hope you have the other stuff saved as well. Riley, are there restrictions on how collaborators are paid? Riley, do you mind just jumping on and giving me a little bit more clarification about what you mean with that one? Maybe he's not.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, hi.
Okay. Yeah, I think you kind of answered it when you answered Abby's question, just about what we can use the money towards, because like we can't pay ourselves, but can we pay people that are collaborating with us and things like
Yes.
that, and what
Yeah.
counts and things like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, you know, I think that like, yeah, we just want to make sure that you are the project lead on everything, that you are having creative oversight, everything, that this project is about you specifically. So, but you can pay anybody to help you with, you know, almost anything. So,
So just
The
as long as their
important-
services are clearly defined and they're part within the greater project,
correct.
everything should be copacetic. Okay.
Right, and also what you could do is draw up a very simple contract with people, explaining the who, what, when, where, and why this person is getting paid. So if it's who, it could be an artist, an outside professional service artist that's providing a particular skill that you maybe don't have, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, like because it's a particular service you don't have, the dates, and how much you're paying them. Then that way, at the end, when you're doing your final report, you have information on there that's telling us why you chose to pay this person. It's always good to have some sort of documentation about money, specifically when you're paying it out to someone else, why you're paying them, what you're paying them for to do.
Yeah, thank you.
So our next question comes from Sarah, and this is an interesting one, and which I might actually handle to Gwen. Sarah has been a professional musician for the past 10 years and a visual artist in traditional and more recently digital art for 10 years as well. She recently decided to complete an undergraduate degree in early childhood education. Is she not eligible for ArtSpark?
Well, I think you definitely are eligible for ArtSpark if you've been.
Well, she's a student. She's a student right now.
Oh,
She's an
completely
undergraduate student right now.
undergraduate student. Okay,
Yeah.
I heard that part. Okay, so I mean, I missed that part. Sorry. So, I mean, if you're been a practicing, then we have artists that are very gifted that are very young sometimes.
No, I think you're missing the point.
think so.
She has been an artist for a long time. She recently enrolled in an undergraduate degree. So she is currently an undergraduate student in early childhood education. I think in the past we've had people who have been in this situation where they are artists, but they're currently studying in a degree that is completely unrelated, and they have not been eligible for the program. So I think that would be the case here as well.
because of the student and
Yes, yeah,
because she's a student. I see what you're saying.
correct. Yeah, so I'm sorry to say, Sarah, that that's the case, but we do have coming up a grant for high school and college students. It's up to $1,000, and you would be eligible for that. So we can talk about that. I think I mentioned it to you, Oliver, the other day. And yes, says Michael, I see Michael says it's always safer to work on your grant on the outside of the online application, the cut and paste into the online application. Good tip. Can I use funding to rent an exhibition space? Michael, yes, you can. It can't be ACA, but yes, that is an eligible expense. Alex, can you reiterate the role Opportunity Machine plays? Are we needing to have a tech component to our projects? No. So they do help tech startups, but in this capacity, they're helping artists to really hone their skills as entrepreneurs, just of their art businesses. They're one of the main things that they provide you with is access to a 10-part marketing workshop. And so that is something that they will help you with. But they will sit down with you and talk to you about different ways for you to figure out revenue streams with all of the different types of artwork that you do and exterior work that you do. So you don't need to have any tech component. They're really just there as a professional development component. They're there to support you in your economic development. Great. And then Yon Choi. I have samples of work. Yes, they are, Alex. I have samples of work in 2 different disciplines in Culturalist. Is there any way to pinpoint which work the reviewers should look at, or should I remove irrelevant work from this grant application? I have both painting and films and Culturalist, but I'm planning to apply. Yeah, so that's a really good question. And unless you're planning on using some of your visual art as a work sample that showcases some work that you'll be using in your film, then yeah, you should probably just streamline it to only show the film parts of it. So and make sure that you're providing us, if you're using Culturalist as the way to provide work samples, make sure that you're putting in descriptions within Culturalist about each of the things that you upload. Culturalist is not a requirement, Allison. You can just upload directly into the application. It's really there as like an easy way to access your work samples for us. But and also just to have a, an artist profile up there. Can we use the funds for a project that has already begun? As you know, movies take a while. Wondering if this is something that. So, Gwen, you were going to say something real quick?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something about the switch in artistic media. Sometimes we've had artists that were practicing in one particular discipline and then switched over at some point, and they'd really wanted to showcase both because both were going to be used in whatever they were applying for. Or a way to do it also is if you're trying to hone in on something that you've been working on and really move it to the next level. Like if you really were practicing some sort of music, but you really needed more lessons or instruction, and you wanted to enhance your music, but use some visual arts with it to create an album or something like that. So then you would use both, but I'm definitely with Anna, you have to focus on whatever one is going to be more relevant to what you're applying for.
Mm-hmm. And Abby, so, okay, so the way that we look at a project is like something that has a beginning, middle, and end. If you can justify a beginning, middle, and end of part of a project, then yes, we have aided with pre-production production before. I don't think anybody's ever used this as just post-production, but yes, that is a possibility, and we should talk about that in more detail just to make sure that it really fits into those guidelines. However, in terms of festival submissions, that is kind of a gray area because we're kind of putting funds into something that is not tangible. So yes, if you get into something, then you know that's fantastic, and you get into a festival. But and I know festival submissions can be expensive, but festival submissions is a difficult one to justify, I think. But yeah, we can talk about it. Okay. Any more questions? All right. Thank you everybody for coming. Don't forget, tomorrow we have our first office hours. Sorry, it's been a long day. So please come along, hang out with us. Bob Burrell, a previous ArtSpark recipient, will be there to help me, answer questions and tell you about his experiences. And I should also mention all of the other office hours will generally have a previous ArtSpark recipient in attendance as well, so that you can ask them about what their experiences were like. And we'll have those binders as well, which is like such an, I think that that's probably one of the best parts of this. That will start at 5 p.m. in the ACA Cafe. And I do believe we still have some leftover golf brew beers. So, if not that, then just come and, hang out for a little bit. And yeah, please be in touch. You have Gwen's email address, you have my email address, and we're always happy to chat to you about your ideas and your applications. But yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming.